The Lobo Coaches Show is presented by Toyota. Let's go places. Hello, Lobo fans, and welcome on set of your Lobo Coaches Show. I'm your host, Robert Portnoy, with women's basketball coach at UNM, Mike Bradbury. Coach Bradbury, it's great to be back with you. And your team had a 14-game home winning streak, actually dating all the way back to 2 seasons ago, pre-COVID. It finally came to an end, but I know you love the Pitt fans. Your players love playing in that unbelievable venue. It was a sweet run, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. We've always been a pretty good home team, and it was a long streak over, I guess, a long period of time, more than even just the number of games we won, just because it stretched out over, more than 2 years, I guess.
We're going to talk about 2 games today. One of them was very unique because of the weather. It was on a Wednesday night in the Pit when a major snowstorm came into Albuquerque late afternoon. The fans that showed up for that one, I know you had a lot of strong feelings for them.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. The weather was horrible. Probably as bad as I've seen it since I've been here, especially the timing. If it would have been a little bit later or a little bit earlier, then I think the game would have been fine. But just the timing, it got real bad from 3 to 7 o'clock and made it where there was no chance many people could come. When I walked down right before tip-off, I was shocked that there were, a few hundred or several hundred fans that had made their way in there.
An incredible turnout under the circumstances for a big win over Colorado State. That was a lot like your win over Colorado State in Fort Collins. Mm-hmm. You got an incredible performance from AT. Antonia Anderson was off the charts. You built a big lead. It got away, and then you hung on to win. These 2 teams match up. It was a great game. It was
a really good game, and 2 good offensive teams. And, we had made a bunch of shots, and then they hit a bunch there in the fourth quarter, and the game got real tight. Like you said, it was the exact same game as we played at Colorado State. And I think that's been part of our problem. The last couple of weeks is not really being able to finish games off the way we probably should and the way the fans want us to. And it showed at Colorado State, it showed here against Colorado State, and then it really showed, against Wyoming.
We'll talk about that game in the Pit with Wyoming as well before the show is over. And, Coach, you guys had an amazing start to league play as well. I think you won your first 8 league games. There was an overall 9-game winning streak. UNM still had just 1 loss in conference, and you were tied right atop the conference as Wyoming came to town. Did it feel like in all these close games that you played in league play that maybe that finally caught up with you?
I guess I've heard that from a lot of people. I don't know if I always buy into that. We had a chance to win the game. We turned the ball over too many times. The odds of winning all those close games, maybe they even out. But we had our chances.
It also comes down to late game execution. Your team has really been good at that for the most part all year.
Yes, and we weren't against Wyoming, and credit to them. But we were really sloppy with the ball in the last couple minutes.
It was definitely a heartbreaking loss for New Mexico, but all of your goals are still right out there in front of you. How's the team taking it?
Yeah, we continue to practice and do things. We've got to get over that. Our biggest thing is we have to improve. We're not where we need to be, and we need to get better, and those are the things we're trying to work on.
Okay, time for us to take our first time out. We come back on the other side, we look at tape. Historic performance for Antonia Anderson in the Pit. That's next on your Lobo Coaches Show. The Lobo Coaches Show is presented by Toyota. Let's go places. Welcome back on your Lobo Coaches Show with the women's basketball coach at the University of New Mexico, Mike Bradbury. Coach Bradbury, we're going to get into highlights of the Lobos and Colorado State from the Pit here in just a moment. When these 2 teams played in Fort Collins earlier this season, Antonia Anderson went crazy. I think she made 8 threes. The Lobos played unbelievably, and you guys won in their building. There are a lot of changes that occur when you go from the first matchup to the second matchup in league play. What did you expect to see from Colorado State in this game defensively, and then what did they actually do?
Yeah, we thought they would come out and guard AT a little bit more, and they did. And then they still didn't guard Shai Magruder as much, which we kind of expected. So, they've got a real plan up there to how they play defense, and they're good defensively, and they try and take away certain things. So it changed a little bit, but it was kind of what we expected, I guess.
Well, still, Antonia Anderson found a way to score. 33 points. I mean, it's the most in a game by Mountain West player this season. So she figured out, even if the defense was focused on her.
Yeah, she played a good game. It was probably her best game of the year offensively. She made the right plays. She shot it when she should shoot it, and she passed it when she should have. She also put it on the floor and got us some baskets too, and shot a really high percentage. I thought her decision making during this game was probably the most important thing.
All right, let's get to the tape. The Lobos in Colorado State from the pit.
Yeah, kind of right off the bat there, we get a little pick and roll with Shai and Tora.
How was the offense operating for you guys here in the first quarter?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. We made a couple of tough shots, and then toward the end of the quarter, we kind of got going a little bit.
Beautiful little spin move by Jaden De La Cerda there, and she's able to convert.
Yeah, our ball movement, like there was a questionable decision, but Shai made a great play and was able to kick it out to AT for an open three. You can tell as this quarter has wore on, our offensive flow and our movement and the passing has gotten better, and we're starting to be able to score some more points.
Looks like you're getting some good dribble penetration as well. And I know you love when your team goes to the offensive glass. Not always the strength of your team, right?
It's not. Paula with a good one there to close the quarter out. And we really got going here in the second quarter. We were able to get some shots in the paint, and then that freed us up from outside.
There's an open corner three. You mentioned Paula Reyes. She is obviously an excellent shooter as well as a true freshman, really coming into her own. And here's Jaden De La Cerda creating.
Yeah, just made the right plays. She plays the last 6 minutes here at the point guard spot. A little bit out of position for her, and she really carried us. 7 assists, 1 turnover, and she had to play a lot at the one.
You know, I can think of games earlier in the season, especially in non-conference. One against New Mexico State comes to mind where Jaden was forced really to play point guard most of the game. She can really do it.
Yeah, she can do it. It's not the best thing for our team all the time, but she can play it. And this kid just wants to win. She knows how to win. Great pass here to close out the half. I mean, those are the plays that she can make, even though she's playing out of position. And, I mean, we could not have won that game without her 6 great minutes there in the first half.
Let me ask you a question. A defensive player, you saw that pass out from Jaden right before the end of the half to create the three-point shot. A defensive player goes down. We've seen that flop call many times in the men's game this season. Is it happening as often in the women's game?
It's not an emphasis in the women's game right now. Hopefully next year it will be. But right now it's not one of those emphasis things.
Okay, well, here you guys go. And this is sort of the same period in the first meeting between these two teams in Fort Collins, where your team kind of took over offensively and staked the Lobos to a big lead.
Yeah, had a big lead in the third quarter, and then just kind of lost their way again. And Colorado State, chipped away, and they've got it down to 3 now in a one-possession game with 9 minutes left. And these are the things that we have to improve on. Or we'll get ourselves in trouble. After they cut it to 3, we make a 3, then get a defensive stop, and then get another 3 in transition right here from Jaden, and that kind of stabilized us a little bit. We got it back to 9. It's not comfortable by any means, but at least you've got it more than one possession.
Sometimes when the other team goes on a run like that, it's because your offense gets stagnant and you can't find ways to score. Other times it's defensive breakdowns that were really the problem. Can you put a finger on this one? Yeah,
we didn't take or make any shots. We didn't take good shots, and then defensively they were beating us up in transition, and we were missing assignments and things that we had been doing, and that allows Colorado State to get back in the game. And like we were talking about, they're really good offensively. And if you're not on assignment all the time, then you can get beat up.
There you go. Antonia Anderson's averages against Colorado State in 2 games this season, a ridiculous 31.5 points, 6.5 boards, 2.5 assists, and 7.5 threes made in those 2 games. That's unbelievable.
It is. She shot it well both times against them. And, be honest with you, she shot it well all year. She's shooting about 40% from 3. It's just happened in those 2 games where she got, more opportunities than in some other games.
Coach Bradbury has built his roster with a bunch of three-point shooting, and you guys can ring the arc with great shooters. But at some point, teams are not going to say, okay, we're going to let Antonia Anderson have that shot. She's proven that she can hit it.
Yeah, and I think you'll see as some games come up that that'll happen. She just has to make the right play for whatever is going on. It's the same thing we tell Jaden and the twins is you have to make the right play. You might not get to shoot 10 threes today, which is kind of what they would like to do. But just make the right play, and if it's a 2 or if it's a pass, then that's the play we have to make.
Coach mentioned his other big, Shai Magruder. She had another fantastic performance, 17 points in this one. She's getting some run for Conference Player of the Year by some media because she really fills a stat sheet. How has she become such a complete player?
She's worked on her game. She plays harder than she's ever played now. She's more into and interested in the game. And her talent's never been a problem. She's as talented and as athletic as anybody I've coached, and now she's putting all that together, and with the work that she's put in and her mental approach now, she's putting up good numbers.
All right, the Lobos swept the teams on the Front Range. When they went out on the road, Colorado State and Wyoming, they looked to do the same at home in the Pit. The Lobo matchup with the Wyoming Cowgirls is next. The Lobo Coaches Show is presented by Toyota. Let's go places. Welcome back into your Lobo Coaches Show with the women's basketball coach at UNM, Mike Bradbury. And Coach Bradbury, now it's the second matchup with Wyoming. You've got the Cowgirls in the Pit. You think back to the first meeting on the Front Range, a game played more at the Lobos pace, I would say, as you guys got the sweep of CSU and Wyoming on the road. What did you expect tactically from the Cowgirls going into this one?
Well, I thought, that they would change their defense a little bit, from the first game, and they did, and they made it, some more drastic changes than Colorado State did. Then they came out and guarded both post players, when they had the ball. So that was much different from the first one, and then the pace was much slower in this one than it was in the first game.
The Lobos like to get out in transition. Wyoming made that difficult?
Yeah, they did. They sent some people back, and to be honest with you, it's what slowed us down is we couldn't get them off the offensive boards, and so their big kids and even some of their guards, they just kept getting offensive rebounds, so they just kept the ball like time of possession almost in football, where they had the ball forever.
All right, still a terrific matchup and a great game that went right down to the wire. Let's get to the tape. The Lobos and Wyoming in the Pit.
Slow start for us. We didn't score till almost 5 minutes into the game. They were taking things away. We weren't crisp on offense. Our cuts weren't very hard. It seemed like everything we got was difficult. And, to Wyoming's credit, they took us out of a lot of things, and when we did get open shots, even those were hard for us to make in that quarter.
Was this the type of game where, in terms of the way that your offense operated it, they made it difficult for you to get what you wanted?
They did, and they took some things away. They switched stuff when they got behind on screens, and they just made it hard. And then I think our biggest problem was our pace, and not up and down the floor. It was our pace in the half court where our cuts weren't hard. We just weren't very sharp.
Well, there's a terrific play by Jaden De La Cerda coming off that ball screen and going through contact and finishing. Has she built her strength over her career to be able to finish a play like that?
She can. She's a good finisher around the basket and even through contact. Jaden's super talented. She's one that we got that can score at every level.
So we can see here second quarter now, Wyoming with a 3-point lead. and a kick to a wing three right there. Did you feel like the ball movement started to get a little bit better as the game wore on?
It was better halfway through the second quarter. We were able to score some points by moving the ball and moving ourselves, which allowed us to get some drives at the basket, things like that. We got none of that in the first quarter.
That's what I wanted to ask. Against Wyoming defensively, we talk about ball movement and then player movement. It's so critical to get both of those, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to lock in defensively, and if you don't move them around over and over and over, then you're going to have big trouble.
What about defending the post? And I know with their size, it was very difficult in this game.
It was. We did a good job in game one and not so good in this game. We never really could get them under control in the paint.
Allison Frederick, the player that you talked about with the double-double and 11 offensive boards, 19 points, 18 rebounds. That's what you were talking about in terms of the way they were able to keep possession even when they missed a shot. Yeah,
they beat us up on offensive boards, and it was when we got defensive rebounds, we were able to score in transition, but we couldn't get enough of them.
Couldn't take advantage of your quickness because you couldn't clear the defensive rebounds.
That's correct.
So now we're late third quarter, and just in sort of the way that the game is feeling to you at this point, you hit a corner three right there to pull within 2 points. But, what about the way that this is going back and forth right now?
Well, this is where we finally got going. We outscore them. I think it was 7-2 or 9-2 to end the quarter to get through that quarter with a tie game. And that was big. Like the close of that quarter was big. So then we were able to start the fourth quarter when we get a stop on a block shot, we get a rebound, we get a bucket in transition. And then it just keeps happening. We get another stop, then we get to pushing again. And once we get going like this and playing at this pace, it's good. So we start the quarter 11-0 by the time, this run is over.
I think at one point here in this fourth quarter, the lead, you build it to 13 at its biggest point, right?
Yeah, it was definitely double figures because we scored the first 11, and we might have gotten it to 13. Again, great pass from Paula there. That's not an easy play. So 7.5 to go. We're up 11 with the ball. Score again, get it to 13. And then this is when we hit a huge scoring drought, and again, an offensive rebound lets them, get more time, more shots, and then Allison gets to lay it in.
It feels like there's obviously a little bit of luck involved in rebounding as well. You guys had a couple players get hands on that rebound, and it actually ends up being tapped right to a Wyoming player.
Yeah, we got to get it with two hands. You have to be able to get defensive rebounds. They're just a little bit sloppy with that. And they had a step back three. This was our second turnover in the last 19 seconds, and then they hit the three at the buzzer.
Heartbreaking loss with that buzzer-beating three for Wyoming. A player who hadn't scored in the entire game knocks down the game-winning shot, and it looked like you guys defended the possession really well until the very end.
Yeah, defensively we were fine throughout the game, other than the rebounding. But offensively, in the last 7 minutes, was as bad as we could be. We scored 4 points, and we just, the exact things that we were doing from the middle part of the third quarter till the first half of the fourth quarter, we stopped doing in the last, 7 minutes, and it cost us.
The final offensive possession there where you can't get the ball in bounds in terms of what you were trying to do, what ended up happening, how did it play out?
I thought she was open. We didn't make the play. We'll get better at that, as we move forward.
It's a question that a lot of folks have asked regarding the final possession. Any thought at that point about a foul before the three gets taken?
Yeah, it was, and we discussed that in the huddle. The problem we had is we were going to take a foul if it was above the three-point line, like above the top of the key. Reason being, they had the ball underneath out of bounds 5 times in the second half and scored on 4. Okay, so we figured we had a better chance of defending them 5-on-5 than we did defending them underneath out of bounds. If they would have had the ball above the top of the key where it would have been taken out on the side, then we were going to use a foul. But you can see that whole possession was below the free throw line. So it just, for us in that situation, it didn't make sense.
And it looked like so close. You get the post player pinned on the baseline. The possession's almost over.
Yeah, and I thought we contested the three. I mean, I thought Tora got there to contest the three. And again, to her credit, that was her only make of the game.
Well, you guys lose a tough one, but again, 14 consecutive home wins, an incredible run in the pit for your fans. Yeah,
it's been good, and it always seems to hurt a little bit when something like that ends or you lose a game like that. At the buzzer, we've won them like that, and now we've lost them like that. So, we are where we are, and we have to continue to get better.
We come back to wrap up the show right after this. The Lobo Coaches Show is presented by Toyota. Let's go places. We're back to wrap up this edition of your Lobo Coaches Show. I'm Robert Portnoy with the women's basketball coach at the University of New Mexico, Mike Bradbury. And Coach Bradbury, let's take this opportunity to celebrate Antonia Anderson. She is part of the 1,000-point, 500-rebound club. She's the all-time games played leader in Lobo basketball history on the women's side. And now she's got a Mountain West Player of the Week honor because of these two matchups against Colorado State and Wyoming. What an unbelievable week for your star.
Yeah, she played really well, especially in the Colorado State game, and then a tough matchup with Wyoming. But AT's a veteran player. She knows how to play, knows how to win. We rely on her a lot, and, this week she played to her capabilities.
For the Lobo women's basketball coach, Mike Bradbury, I'm Robert Portnoy. So long for now, and go Lobos.